So welcome to MStranslate's Ask Me Anything. So this is where a bunch of people from our community have submitted questions about multiple sclerosis or multiple sclerosis research that they'd like answered. And hopefully the point of this video is that we're going to be able to take people from a point of confusion, like we see on the left, to that point of understanding, which we see on the right. So the first question that we had submitted is, what is a placebo and why is it so important in a clinical trial? So when we're talking about a placebo, what we're talking, no, we're not talking about the band. We're talking about part of a clinical trial where people are given essentially a fake treatment. So in these clinical trials, we have groups, and these groups are randomly, the cohort is randomly divided into two separate groups, where one group receives the treatment or the drug, and the second group receives a fake treatment called a placebo. Now these trials are organised so that the people can't really work out which of these two that they're on. Now this is really important because of a thing known as the placebo effect. And essentially the placebo effect is when you're taking something that you think is going to be beneficial for your health, you can actually start to feel better. And so when we're doing these clinical trials, it's really important that we have a placebo control so that we can work out how much of the effects that are being seen during this trial is due to the drug or specific effects of that drug, or just a placebo effect, or the fact that people are thinking that they're getting some form of treatment. And it's important to realize that even though we talk about this quite a bit, the placebo effect is a very real scientific phenomenon. And so just to look at a couple of figures that have been published previously on this, we can see in this figure here, so this was done for people with irritable bowel syndrome. And so in this trial, what actually happened was that the people either received no treatment or they received a placebo treatment, and they were told that they were on a placebo. So this was told that it was essentially a sugar pill, but that they're often seen that beneficial effects can be observed by taking this pill. And so even knowing that they were taking a treatment that wasn't really meant to have any effect, you could see that there was a significant difference between the people who were on no treatment and the people who took the placebo in terms of feeling better. In a similar sort of way, this study here looked at pain medication. And so the difference was in the striped bars here, which is called open. For each of the treatments, people received the drug in a way that they could see the doctors providing it to them, whereas in the hidden treatment they didn't realize that they were getting the same medication, so it was being done by a controlled machine, so they didn't know when the drug was being administered. And what you can see here is that in the open treatment they saw significantly higher amounts of pain reduction, showing that just having the understanding of seeing the doctor giving you the medication has some sort of mental effect of making you feel better. So the placebo effect is a really strong scientific phenomenon, and it's why it's so important that we keep it in clinical trials to understand the effects of any new treatments. So question 2 was, what are the known causes of pain in MS? Is it caused by lesions or otherwise? And this is an excellent question. And actually, up until not that long ago, pain wasn't something that was really associated with MS, or wasn't thought to be associated with MS at all. However, more and more now we're understanding that pain is definitely a symptom that is associated with MS, and recent studies have shown that 60 to 70% of people with MS experience pain at some point in time, and around 50% of people with MS report chronic pain. So it's important to get an understanding of what these causes are. It's probably not terribly well known at the moment, but we do know some things that can cause it. So one of the things that can cause pain in people with MS is the damaged myelin, so it is these lesions, and an example of that is a common symptom for people with MS is a sharp pain around their jaw or face region, and this is caused by damage to the myelin in a nerve that services this area called the trigeminal nerve. We also know that part of the disease process of inflammation and swelling can also cause pain, and so one of the common symptoms of this again is inflammation behind the eye as part of optic neuritis can cause pressure around there, and that can lead to pain behind the eye in people with MS. And that's often can actually be one of the first symptoms that people might experience with MS before even some of the vision impacts that we know can be caused by optic neuritis. Lastly, there is some pain that can be experienced that's not necessarily due to the disease process happening in MS. So muscle and mobility pain is probably one of the most common causes of this, and this can be caused by things like problems with mobility, can lead to differences in walking styles or in gait. Long periods of not necessarily being able to move that freely can lead to pain, and one of the most common symptoms of this is lower back pain in particular. So the point here is that pain is definitely something that is experienced by many people with MS and can be chronically experienced by a lot of people with MS. And the causes of it can be quite varied, and so it's quite important to be able to understand what sorts of pain are being caused by what sort of problems, so that these can be treated effectively. So question 3, and the last question that we're going to talk about today, was is there any information about the percentage of lesions discovered by a conventional MRI versus 7 Tesla MRI? So conventional MRI tends to be about 3T. 7T is a new form of MRI that's come out not that long ago and is being used more and more in research. So the differences here is that 7 Tesla is essentially a stronger MRI. So this is starting to be used now, and these were 3 papers that have come out over the past few years. The last 2 there have actually come out in March or May this year, which have looked into this. And essentially the take-home message from all of these papers was that 7 Tesla MRI can improve the detection of MS lesions. These were mostly looking at cortical brain lesions in people with MS. They were rather small studies, but across the studies they suggested anywhere between a 50% improvement up to a 500% improvement in terms of the lesions that can be detected. I guess the second part of the question that was also asked was what percentage of total lesions is this that these are picking up? So while 7T MRI is certainly improving the number of lesions that can be detected versus conventional MRI, that last study that we showed there, published in the journal Brain this year, suggested that around 40% of lesions, of these cortical lesions, were still being missed using a 7T MRI. 7T MRIs aren't being used yet in clinical practice. They suggested that this would certainly be an improvement to use these sort of MRIs, but there are limitations in terms of how easily these will be available to use in a clinic. So that's the end of our Ask Me Anything video today. As always, if you can like, share and comment on this video, more people will be able to see it. This is a little bit of a new format in terms of what we're doing today, so as always, feedback is greatly appreciated. We need to know if you love it, we need to know if you hate it, any improvements that you could suggest, because as always we want to tailor what we're doing to best suit your needs. We'll be doing these again, so if you want to submit any questions, you can always submit questions on Facebook, or you can email them directly to me at brett@mstranslate.com.au. Thanks guys, and I hope that this has helped answer some of your questions.